Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Nick with the 1994 Candle Co. And as you saw from the title of today's video, we are going to be making some wax melts. I'm going to be giving you guys the blend of waxes that I use to make my wax melts super strong, but I'm not going to do a long intro because you guys already know what the video is about, so let's get started.
But I'm right here, it's gonna be okay. The world could fall down, it's gonna be okay. The sun could go out, we're gonna be okay. If all the blue skies fade to gray, we're gonna be okay.
So the blend of waxes that I use for my wax melts is actually 6006, which is the wax that I use for my candles, but then I mix it with a little bit of 4625, which is a food grade paraffin wax. And it is a super hard tart wax. I believe it's supposed to be used for tarts. Hopefully this will focus. But as you can see, it's literally like a rock. It is super hard. I literally, as you can tell from the marks on it, I literally have to take a hammer to it to break it apart because it is super hard. And so I just mix about 20% 4625 to 80% 6006. You might be wondering, can you just use 6006 on its own? Technically, yes, you can. I really would not recommend it though, because the wax itself is very soft. As you can see, it bends and stuff like that, and so whenever your customers go to take these out of the wax clamshells, or whatever, the wax melt clamshells, it's going to be sticking to the sides, it's going to get all over their hands, it's going to be really sticky, and it's just not going to be an enjoyable experience for them. So I really would recommend not just using this on its own. I would blend it with another tart wax like 4625 or some other pillar wax, something that will make it a little bit harder so that you can take it out of the clamshells a little bit easier, and it'll be better for wax melts. So I know that 16 ounces of wax plus 10 to 12% of fragrance oil, I usually use 12%, but even if you use 10%, it should still be fine. But 16 ounces of wax plus 12% of fragrance oil actually fills 7 clamshell molds perfectly. So what we're going to do is just take 20% of 16 ounces, which is 3.2 ounces, and that is going to be the amount of 4625 that you use. So I'm just going to be putting pieces in here until we get to that amount. Okay, and now I'm just going to add 12.8 ounces of the 6006. Don't worry, this is not a sharp knife at all. It's very dull. Really only good for cutting wax. Perfect. Wow, 12.9, but that's okay. It's barely anything. So then we're gonna place that right here in our double boiler. The reason I did it this way today is just because if anyone is new or whatever and you wanna know how to blend waxes together, the double boiler method, especially if you're new to candle making, is gonna be your best bet. All you do is just get any kind of crock pot that you normally use for cooking or whatever, and just fill it up probably about here with water and make sure it's boiling, and then you just set your pitcher in the water so that it melts and stuff like that. Real fast before we get to this next part of the video, it would mean so much to me if you would give this video a thumbs up, as well as subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Also, everything that you will need to make wax melts I will have linked down in the description box below. But what you're just going to need is like a pot like this, and then another pot that you can put your wax in. Obviously, you're going to need your wax melt clamshells, your waxes. You will need a kitchen scale of some sort, a thermometer. I really like this thermometer. I have never had any issues with it. I've had it for a couple years now. It is a digital thermometer, so it's a lot easier to read than like the little candy thermometers and stuff like that. But then you're also going to need something to stir with. You're going to want something to put your fragrance in. And then last but certainly not least, you're going to need your fragrance oil, which today I'm using Strawberry Pound Cake from Midwest Fragrance Company. And then while your wax is melting, you can go ahead and measure out your fragrance oil. Like I said, for this recipe, I like to use 12% fragrance oil. You could definitely do like 10% or probably even 8% and still get really good results, I'm sure. But I just like to use a little bit more because with this blend, because you're blending the waxes, it does allow the wax to hold a little bit more fragrance, and so I just like to add a little bit extra in there. So 12% of 16 ounces is 1.92. So we're going to go ahead and weigh that out. Alright, 1.9, that's close enough. As you can see there, we are at about 196.7, so that is definitely good enough to go ahead and take it off the burner. Just going to set it over here and let it cool down just a little bit. I generally like to add fragrance right around 180, between 180 and 185. Olive came to say hi because she was very concerned with what was happening here. Alright, we're about 181, so I'm just going to go ahead and add fragrance oil. And then I do like to stir for about 2 minutes. You definitely don't need to, but I just do it just to let the wax cool down a bit before I pour it into the clamshells. Just because you definitely don't want to pour them too hot because they can melt through them sometimes. Thankfully, the ones I have are from Midwest Fragrance Company, and they so far have seemed to be really good. I have not had any issues with any of them melting or having any holes or anything like that. But I still like to just be on the safe side and not pour them too hot with the clamshells. Another thing I forgot to mention is that you don't want to do what I did when I first started making candles and wax melts, and that was not paying attention to the actual temperature that I pour the fragrance oil. I just thought that once the wax was melted, you could just pour in the fragrance and it was fine, but that's really not the truth. You really need to get it up to, I would say, at least at the very minimum 170 to 180, maybe even 185, 190 for some waxes, just depending on the type of wax. With this wax blend specifically, and with my candles, I generally add fragrance right around 180, 185, just because I found that that's what works best for me.
It's over now, so don't despair. The world could fall down, it's gonna be okay. The sun could go out, we're gonna be okay. If all the blue skies fade to gray, we're gonna be okay.
Obviously, they all turned out perfect. Absolutely perfect. Except for this guy. It's fine. It's fine. It is what it is. I just overfilled the other 6 by a little bit, and so actually I overfilled them by quite a bit. So the last one just kind of, you know, it's okay. It'll just be for me. But it is what it is. Anyway, guys, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. You can check out one of these other videos that are about to pop up on the screen, and I will see you there.